The world is definitely in a interesting state. People always ask us, how do you pick your topics? Why do you talk about this and why do you talk about that? It is the energy that we pick up. Christine and I will usually go on a walk. We'll pick up the energy and feel what's important. One thing that we've noticed, of course, over the past 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, even 5 years, everywhere around the world, but we can most easily measure the temperature here in the United States, is a hyper partisanism, if that's a word, which means that people are hyper attached to their parties. It's such a big divide, and we need to make a few things clear. People have been asking us, what party do you affiliate? What political party do you support? What candidate do you support? And the truth of the matter is, I've never been in my life a member of a party. I've never religiously supported a party. I see certain tendencies in certain sectors that are positive. I see a lot of tendencies that are hyper negative. But we're going to get to a solution picture here, so stick with us. Really important. We're going to get to the solution. There is a big solution. Are you liberal? Are you conservative? Are you woke? Are you awake? All these things. We have, in our attempt to become more enlightened and awake to the political landscape and to the corruption in politics, allowed ourselves to be, once again, steered towards those boxes. And those boxes do not serve us. Because here's the thing, if you look at, and I'm going to take the American political system as an example that can pretty much be translated to every other country in the world. Now you will say, wait a minute, Italy is different. We have 10 parties. Austria is different. We have 5 or 6 parties. It doesn't matter. They're controlled by the same forces. They just have different names. There's only always a handful of players that disrupt the system that are not part of the system. But let's look at the system. Here's the thing. The Democratic Party, the Democrat Party, and the Republican Party in the US, the establishment of those parties are walking down the same path, kicking and screaming at each other in theatrics, marching down the same road towards this great reset, one world order, globalization, transhumanism, tyranny, dystopia. This is not a conspiracy theory. You just have to look at the actions. The evidence speaks louder than words. Yes, you might say, hey, we've had President Obama and we've had President Bush. They were so different. And then we had Trump, and then we had this. Let's take Trump a little bit to the side right now. I'm going to get to him later. But let's talk about the past 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years. And the truth is that aside from domestic hot button issues where these parties are fighting with each other, they have, especially in the big scheme of things, geostrategically and geopolitically, gone down the same path. And it's always been in the same direction: an expansion of wars, an expansion of interventionism, an expansion of more centralized control, all of these things, okay? So if you look at the policies, if you look at the actual politics of these two parties, they're walking down the same road. They're actually walking hand in hand. They're like Pepsi and Coke, a little bit of a different flavor, same product. And so what they're hiding is the fact that they're actually working for the same force. What they're hiding is that they're actually working towards the same goal. But one thing that's even more important than what they're hiding, because we figured that out, is they both also know that there's an inevitable truth that they're trying to masquerade. They're trying to dilute it and trying to divide us so we can't really work on a solution. And this inevitable truth is that we are, as a human family, because of our collective behavior, because of our collective egotistical lifestyle, again, across the board, there's some cultures where it's a little better, some cultures where it's worse. We have reached a point in our behavior towards each other and Mother Nature that's not sustainable. And here's where the playbook comes in. I'm not talking about climate change. I'm not talking about global warming. Not because these things aren't facts, but because to say these are news is like saying nature is news. It's part of nature. The global climate weather changing and the trajectory of temperature changing is part of this existence in this realm. It's always been like that. Or we wouldn't have had ice ages and we wouldn't have had tropical times. And that was before, apparently, industrialization. So the link really is that we are now, see, the one political side is saying the fact that others are saying climate change is caused by human beings is a hoax discredits the idea that we need to change. That's the crux of this here. And while this whole global climate change movement is something completely different than it appears to be, it did create the effect on the political conservative side that we don't need to change anything. And that's the biggest crux. We necessarily, absolutely 100% need to change. Because both of these major players that ultimately belong to the same puppet master know that the way we're walking now, we're walking straight towards a cataclysm, like a big one. And this is not, again, this is not fear-mongering. You just have to look at the facts. You just have to realize that there is a natural balance. And then when we get too far out of balance, nature naturally reacts. Those are the laws. That's just something that is. We can argue about who says what and what stat is right, but you don't have to look that far. We have to realize that neither combustion engines that we're using right now or the principle of explosion and burning fuel and burning oil, nor strip mining the earth on the other side for all the minerals and all the things needed to build batteries and to build chargers and to build these plants. Neither of these options solve this problem because they're both equally bad in different ways. So when people say, well, I'm going to buy a Tesla rather than a truck, it's the same thing. It just makes you feel better in the moment. That's not the change we're really talking about here. We need to fundamentally, systematically change, and the political parties are not going to lead us there to the right change because they already have a marching order. They already know where they need to take us. That is into a world that will strip us of our humanity, that will strip us of our ability to make those choices of consciousness, that will turn us into bio-robots, and that can be 100% controlled. That's the end of our quest for who we really are as these natural beings. The solution in this is that we need to understand that these political movements are not the solution and these leaders are not truthful. Granted, there are some out there that are doing some really good things. Ironically, and I said I was going to set Trump aside, I'm going to pull Trump back in. Let's set aside the emotions. Let's set aside the emotional charge around President Trump and all that. Okay, let's set that aside. Let's look at some facts here. We were on a very powerful trajectory just a few short years ago because we were beginning as a country to reestablish some kind of independency. Now you will say, but how is this good? If we ramp up coal production, if we ramp up drilling, if we ramp up fracking, all these things that are so harmful to the mother, how can that be positive? Yes, I agree with you, but the necessary change that we need to make can only happen when we're in a state of independence. Right now, we're in a constant state of dependence. As you can see, the most outrageous thing is that we're actually, as a country, as a nation, importing gas and oil from now a complete perceived adversary, Russia, while at the same time, we're not using our own resources that would allow us to be independent, which we were just a few short years ago. What does that independence allow us to do? It gives us time and space and the freedom to focus on the technologies and the abilities and possibilities that we have to actually create some sustainable change, which was actually the plan. This was the plan of the former president. I'm not emotionalizing here. This is facts. If we can create energy independence, we will, in the short term, over months and very few short years, ramp up domestic production for our energy consumption. At the same time, it will allow us give us the freedom to implement and bring about the necessary changes, because we need to completely change our ways. This is a fact. Listen, this is a fact. Everyone agrees on that. And again, it's not about the Green New Deal. It's not about the Great Reset or that. It's about realizing that we're not coexisting peacefully with nature. We're not in a harmonious relationship with nature. We are the thieves, and we take so much more than we give. We don't even give time and space for nature to recreate itself. All it takes for you is to jump in your car, turn on that combustion engine, or if you're of a Tesla, turn on that electric engine, and I challenge you to drive, make a list on a map and look for 10 bodies of water, ponds, lakes, rivers, streams, and buy a cheap testing kit and see how many of those bodies of water have even decent quality, drinking quality, are even remotely usable. The point here being is, from my observation, we have, in the countries that I can look deeper into, we have some really good political movements. We have some really good, authentic movements. In America, one of the movements that I, for a lot of reasons, do align with and resonate with is this, what people call the America First movement. And I want to say with prejudice, because a lot of the things that these people feel and are expressing and are doing is taking back responsibility, is really taking back the power, which is super important. What this movement is lacking, this is what is also important, is this understanding that we need to fundamentally change. We don't need to change according to the UN agenda or according to the Green New Deal or Al Gore or any of those people or Klaus Schwab. I'm not saying that, but we need to fundamentally agree that we need to change. And we need to understand how we need to change. This is something that's being discussed all the time. The current trajectory of the world's nations and this global alliance that they have is that we need to change from the top down, create a global control system that will then trickle down, hopefully into your local systems, and create a change. The problem with this is it never works. This is the empire system. This is the emperor system. These never work. The thing is, and that's why we're here, why we're doing what we're doing. We need to individually educate ourselves and each other, help each other evolve to come to this understanding that it is us, that we personally need to make a change in our lives, that we need to really figure out how we can do that. And this is where we get to the solution. People always ask me, what is the solution? It is this project. Is it that project? There are communities, shared communities where people share land. All of this is pretty good. But here's one thing. The human nature, the real human nature, is individuality and cooperation. These are real human natures, and these things actually go together. So individuality means we are individual expressions of the divine. We have individual talents, individual strengths, individual dreams and visions. We need to acknowledge that we're individual beings. On the other side, we are social beings. We love being in collectives, and it's natural to us to want to share and help each other. That comes natural. Some of the richest people I know, that one of their greatest joys is to share this with others. So this comes natural too. And now we need to understand that in order for a human being to truly understand itself, it needs to have the time, the space, and the resources. What does that mean? Every other being on this earth has a dedicated living space, whether it's on land or in the water. Every animal has its space to live but us. Yes, our way of living has taken away, in many instances, the space from these animals, but they still have dedicated space that they can go to. No one charges them rent. No one says they need to pay for it or work hard for it. It's theirs. We don't have that. And the greatest movement for the liberation of the human spirit, the pacification of this planet, which means to bring about peace and harmony and to bring about abundance for everyone, was born in the mid 90s in Russia, of all places. And this was by the publishing of the Ringing Cedar books. The vision that's laid out in these books is not something that is specific to Russia. It's not something that is specific to the current Russian culture. It is a vision that everyone and anyone in the world can implement and live in their lives. And the vision is simple, that if we create a dedicated space for ourselves, a space of love, a piece of land, and this is approximately 2.5 acres, I think 1 hectare, that's kind of what this equates to, where we can create a space that sustains us, where we can be in harmony with the nature, where we can be who we really were meant to be. Now, this might not be the right thing for everyone, but a lot of human beings would like that. And the vision is way bigger. It is laid out in 10 books, the 10 most amazing books I've ever read and reread. But there is a solution. There is a way, and people are already doing it. And they have expanded through many countries. There are settlements and people that are doing it. And the culture this was born from was our original culture. Yours, mine. We all used to share a culture way, way, way back when we knew how to live, when we had the instructions on how to live on Earth, and when we did it in a harmonious, peaceful, and sustainable way. If we were to implement this, and if only a fraction of human society would begin living like that, the place would change dramatically within a few short years and decades. Like dramatically, I'm telling you, this solution is so wonderful because it actually acknowledges for the first time the need of the individual to be free and independent, and also acknowledges that that's the only way how we can become who we really are if we're free and independent. As soon as we're dependent on a government, on basic income, on benefits, on other people, on other people's land or resources, we lose that ability because it always comes with conditions. And so these visions laid out in the Ringing Cedar books by Vladimir Megre, and the link is in the description of this video and every live stream. You can also look him up online. Ringing Cedar books, the Ringing Cedar series. I have no affiliation with the author. We have no affiliation with the publisher. We don't make any royalties or nothing like that. This is pure joy for this vision. This is what we've been working on in our own lives, and this is what we're sharing with the people. There is a solution, but the truth is, this will not be implemented by one political leader or one political party. This will be implemented by our desire. And people have asked for the solution. Out of my whole life, I've been looking for this. My whole life, I've been studying. I've been looking into all different kinds of communities, how to live together, permaculture, all these things. There's so many great things and everything, but nothing has ever come even close to the vision laid out in these books. It will capture your heart, capture your mind, capture your soul, capture your spirit completely, because it is born from such authenticity. The Ringing Cedar series. That's what I can leave you with here. The truth is that we will need to take leadership into our own hands again, and that more than anything else, we need to become acting locally, need to pull this back, this idea that one leader should govern over hundreds of millions or even billions of people. That's the crux of the thing. We need local leadership. Our life is happening locally. Our food grows locally. It should grow locally. Our attention should be local. Our transformational processes should be local. That's what will be contagious to the communities around us. If we can build successful models, successful ways of living that are sustainable, that allow for individuals to thrive and be creative and be successful, that allow for economic and financial freedom, then others will follow. But it's us. We need not to look to the political leaders anymore, because they have gotten us into this mess that we're in. And the same people are still at the rudder. Every country has mechanisms to make the local level even more independent than it is now. This is where direct politics happens, direct leadership, direct change from the people, for the people, by the people. Thank you for being here with us. Please subscribe to our Rumble channel. Very important, very important. Thank you so much. We love you all. Be abundantly blessed.